on. Here we go.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
We got to have the hype music, right?
Yeah, we're hyped, man. Let's rock this.
We're totally hyped. We're hyped with all of one guest right now, but it's Tom, and he's a great. I'm sorry, one viewer.
Okay,
but it's Tom, and he's a great viewer. He counts
Tom Jordan.
Tom Jordan. Not everybody is the same, right? One person can equal 10 people if they're the right person. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. I fundamentally agree with small teams and people doing a lot and having multiple roles, and I think Tom does that.
If Tom was an athlete, who would Tom would be like kind of
maybe like a Troy Brown.
There was this guy that used to play for the Minnesota Twins. I'm going way back, okay, way back, and his name was Cesar Tovar, and he could play any position, and he and this guy Bert Campaneris got into this thing where they played a different position every inning of the game one night, not in the same game, but in different games. And I think Cesar Tovar did it twice. I think Tom might be the Cesar Tovar of our audience.
Do you recall Troy Brown of the Patriots?
Troy Brown, he played both ways, did special teams. I think he drove the bus back from the local games there. Like if they played in New York, Troy Brown probably drove that bus back to New England.
Well, he was willing to do whatever it took to win and play any role. So maybe Tom is like that. Maybe he's like Troy Brown or the guy
I think that's a good analogy. Tom could be our Troy Brown. And Troy could play wide receiver, defensive back, return kicks, drive the team bus. That was Troy Brown for sure.
Yeah.
So we have Moonsprout here and Dorian McLean and Trisha Moto and Ralph Winter. Ralph's chiming in from London, Al, good old London town.
Good old London.
London calling. Al's been making some hilarious videos.
Yeah, I went super
over
viral
on YouTube.
Yeah, well, mainly on Twitter.
Or Twitter, rather. It's Twitter.
Yeah. That one went viral. I did have one video where I talked about Irish athletes and athletes of Irish ancestry. Throws in a lot of Americans, but the idea being that the Irish are connected to the lost continent of Atlantis, and that this is pretty much the reason why the Irish dominate, or they're the best. They have the best player in just about every single sport, everything from lacrosse to football to swimming to skateboarding to fucking surfing. It's every single sport.
I even sent you the link to that gal who's the hurdler from Ireland.
Yeah, right. And it's like so I've had that bit for a while. I've been thinking about that. I launched it on Twitter a couple of years back, but I told that rant for my first what was it, the ALDawg transmission or something? The dog star transmission
Sirius Sports, yes. Yeah, and you went in on the Irish athletes.
Yes.
In a good way.
Yeah, and then once St. Patrick's Day started to come about, and it's such a spell. We're gonna all wear green and binge drink, and that's how we're gonna celebrate our heritage.
Yeah, I always thought that was like such bullshit. It's like, here you go, white people. Here's your holiday.
Exactly.
You get to drink your ass off and act a fool for one day. Go ahead, indulge, enjoy. And you'll have a wonderful hangover tomorrow.
Exactly. And it's just, I've always kind of hated St. Patrick's Day at an instinctual level, and it's just,
I've never gotten into it.
Exactly. I've been tricked into it a few times, like going out, and it's always a bust, always. And it always sucks. It's always cold, and it's always just a crowd. And one or two times is the only times you need to be tricked into St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, so I let loose, and it ended up getting about, I think it's at 853,000 views. It's a little shy of 1 million right now on
Yeah,
Twitter.
that was
So
epic. And then you kind of went in on a bunch of other stuff. And I at some point you're doing like some fucking black and white French film at the beach.
oh
Coming in.
yeah.
It's
That
like
was
this guy's all of a sudden Jean-Luc Godard. And it's
yeah.
like, where is this coming from? So
Okay. That was another comedy bit. That was a bit I did like 2 years ago. I did a course called Grifters University. Um, it got inspired by the fact that, Andrew Tate, he skyrocketed in fame in the summer of 2022. And then it was interesting because I heard people talk about that guy twice in cafes, just organically talking, and I would overhear it. And he had his Hustlers University. So during that time period, I'm like, okay, I'm going to come out with Grifters University, where you can lift your grift even if you're on a cliff. Everything I know for you at Grifters U, the only university where students graduate with no cap. So it's just like, people throw around the term grifter. I sort of embraced it. And I was like, I'm the dean of Grifters University. So it's like a course, and it's available on my Substack. So that's where that came out. It was like a comedy bit. It wasn't a great course successfully. Some people bought it, some people enjoyed it, but it was more of a bit than like, a course.
yeah, it was a good bit.
Mhm.
Um, but I have to say these videos are a little confusing
Oh yeah.
because yeah, just a little bit because my picture of you is working on a construction site or something, but every time you do a video you're like at the beach or running down a country road,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, what is going on with this guy? Like, is he like fucking Bruce Wayne and pretending to work at a construction site? Is that what's going on with Al? Because
Well,
those videos were very unconstruction-y, I gotta say.
the beach ones were from 2022, summer of 2022. But yeah, weekends I'm at the beach during the summer. The other video was I was pretending to be a no fap coach, right?
Right.
Which is like a real thing. There was this one guy who went viral because he was literally marketing himself as a no fap coach. So I took that and sort of like, if I was a no fap coach, this is my pitch. You know what I mean? And that
That
was
was actually pretty funny.
yeah, that
Like,
one was
that was
yeah.
pretty funny. It was all based on public humiliation, which I
Mhm.
thought was quite clever. That was a good one.
Mhm.
But you went from like basically going into full subscription mode and blocking everybody off to all of a sudden doing these videos. Like,
Yeah.
ow, you got a bit of a mood swing there, brother. But it was good, man. I think you needed to get some things out of your system. That's what I think.
Yeah, I like being an artist sometimes, you know what I mean? Like I might post something like that and then just delete it, and just like
The
leave
beach
people.
video was kind of stylish, man. You had the little black and white thing going on there. Right. It
Yeah.
was it was not a bad it was a not a bad look in terms of video goes.
Right, yeah. And
Um,
then I ended up deleting both the beach videos just because it was old. They're like 2 years old, so I like to just be
yeah.
sporadic and unpredictable sometimes.
ALDawg is Batman. There you go. That's what I was inferring.
Well, dude, I'll tell you what, man. ALDawg is the Illuminati. Like, it's a small world. And some things about me might surprise you in terms of my own ability to find myself in pretty rare and unique situations, like hosting a astrology sportscast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a small. You know what it is, man. I've been thinking about a
Let's
lot.
let's let's be clear. You're co-hosting the Astrology
Yeah, yeah,
Sportscast.
yeah, yeah. Right, right, right. Well, yeah, very much so.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Mr. Illuminati.
You know what I've been thinking a lot about in terms of that? So I have this true node in Aquarius, and like what I love about Aquarius, it's water, but it's also electrical, right?
It's air, but yeah, it's air and water, and it is electrical because it's ruled by Uranus. It's an interesting sign. So you're supposed to express your eclectic and unique nature, but you're
Yes.
also supposed to find people that you can do that with.
Mhm.
I know you're doing a pretty good job. You're here with me. You hang out with Longo over on Old World, Florida. right?
Yeah.
So I think you're doing your bit to fulfill your true node, and
Yes.
you're a solid team player, dude. And yet you have found your niche. You're finding your niche in the grand scheme of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, shall we transition into some sports here? You want to talk about some sports?
Yeah, there are some things that need to be discussed in the world of sports for sure.
Well, we got Ohtani on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And why don't we jump into this thing? Because you and I have been talking about sports and gambling from the start of this show, which was just prior to football season. We were in, I think, college football was just kicking off, and we started to get into this. And one of the things that I said is that this is going to get real problematic. And sure enough, we have Shohei Ohtani might be one of the biggest sports stars in the world. And on Friday, during a period where they do a news dump, they let this thing come out that his interpreter was in the bag for millions of dollars with not just a sports betting service. They're illegal in California. This guy's a bookie. Millions of dollars. And this guy was Ohtani's translator. And we're going to climb down this rabbit hole a little bit. Were you shocked because I sent that to you, like the night that it broke? Were you shocked when I sent that to you, or was that like, this is par for the course?
No, definitely not shocked. It was more like, all right, here it is. This is like the first big one. You know what I mean? A lot of this shit, dude, has been getting swept under the rug. Like something like the New England Patriots player / Louisiana State player, Mr. Booty, gets arrested in Louisiana. You'll never hear about it again. Versus a name like this, an international star. This is the first one that you can't look away at this one. Nobody can. And the fact that it was so expansive, it's like, this is a big one.
Major League Baseball is doing everything they can to hazmat this thing too, right?
Dude, you know what I was thinking about?
Like what?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. But dude, just remember when Pete Rose got publicly shamed for like 3 decades, right?
Still being publicly shamed.
Right. And it's kind of like we're never going to see that again ever. Like Ohtani's not going to face what fucking Pete Rose went through for 3 decades. He's not. You know what I mean? They're going to try to sweep this under the rug, in my opinion, my prediction, and they're going to get him back on the field as soon as possible. You know more about it than I do.
Are you kidding me? It's the start of the baseball season, without a doubt.
Yeah,
without a doubt. So I'm gonna bring this up here. So and then we're gonna take a look at Ohtani's chart. That's another thing that we can plug and play here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share this with people to kind of get a sense as to the enormity of the story. So here is Shohei Ohtani. If you don't know who he is this, he's like Roy Hobbs, the natural, only he's Japanese. And he can pitch with some of the best pitchers in baseball, and he can hit with some of the best hitters in baseball. His talent level is unique. And he came to the United States and started playing for the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, which is a shitty name. But that's who he started to play with because they offered him an enormous contract. When you come from Japan, you have to you get into a bidding war with other teams for a Japanese player. And you have to pay the player, and you also have to pay, if I'm not mistaken, the last team that the player was on. So there's a lot of money being transferred. And Ohtani set the record for, I think, the largest deal for a Japanese player to come to the major leagues. And I think he's been most valuable player 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So this guy, he's breaking like new ground. Like this is, kind of unheard of. So this is his translator. This is the guy that's his boy from Japan, right? Although I believe he's much older than Ohtani. He looks a little sketchy, this guy. So what happened here is that this guy Mizuhara. I think this is Ishihagi Mizuhara or something like that. Where's his name? Ippei Mizuhara. $4.5 million. This guy was in the bag to a bookie in Southern California for $4.5 million. Now, first of all, he does not make anywhere near that amount of money. Not even close. Right? If he's lucky, maybe Ohtani cuts him a check for $300,000 or $400,000 a year, 500, maybe $500,000 a year, just to hang out, translate press conferences, and I don't know, go to sushi bars or whatever. I don't know what they do, but he's not going to have that kind of money. So, in order to make those bets, you have to have a credit line. He doesn't have the value. He doesn't have the ability to put the money into the credit line for the bookie. So where is he getting the money for the credit line? This guy right here.
But here's the
Right
thing.
here.
If he's that close with him, he could be stealing from him as well. Right.
Yeah. Maybe, I mean, we saw the thing with the guy in the Jaguars who had an open, he was basically siphoning money out of the Jaguars front office for years to make these bets on FanDuel. I don't think this is the case with this guy. I mean, this is what Ohtani is saying. And I think this guy's he's falling on the sword for him, right?
Oh, big time. This is my read on it by just judging their physiognomy, their face here. Ohtani kind of strikes me as a funny, happy-go-lucky baseball player. He looks a little aloof. He could be acting aloof, but his just pose, his whole demeanor strikes me as happy-go-lucky aloof. That's what I judge on his face, right? But this guy on the left here, this guy, you could see him ripping a cigarette outside a casino, stressed and yelling in Japanese. Just
that
based
dude's
on
full on gangster. His buddy's full on gangster.
Exactly. Like this guy is an underworld veteran.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally. He's a reprobate. That guy's a reprobate. You can tell.
Yeah, and you can see this guy. Oh, I'll take those bats for you. I will move this car for you. Oh, let me borrow your car. You know what I'm saying? And then he's got 4.5 million worth of his shit. You know what I mean?
I think Ohtani has the line of credit with the bookie. That's what I think.
What's Ohtani's angle? Why? Why would he do that?
Because he's his friend, right? Okay. He's his friend.
Yeah.
And who knows? We'll look at his chart. We'll see if his chart reveals any secrets that clearly Major League Baseball is not going to divulge. Mm-hmm. So Major League Baseball did a press conference. It wasn't even, there was no Q&A. There were no cameras allowed. This happened today. It was basically 19 minutes long, and it was just Ohtani making a statement. And the only two entities that were covering the press conference were the Dodgers flagship TV station and the Dodgers flagship radio station. That was it. No reporters, no follow-up questions. They make a statement, sweep it under the rug, and then it's time to move on and play baseball. That's where they're at with this thing. What do you think? Do you think it just goes away? Do you think that it's going to be a problem, going to be an issue? Like, what happens when the Dodgers go on the road and they play in a town like Philadelphia,
mm-hmm.
whose fans have been known to be brutal, right?
Yeah.
What happens? I don't know what interleague play is like this year, but what happens if they go to Fenway Park and play the Red Sox? Red Sox fans are merciless. Like, they may want this to go away, but the fans, like, people are still giving Jose Altuve shit from the World Series, like, 5 years ago. He still hears about it when he goes to bat. So this is a problem for the Dodgers. It's a big, big PR problem. It's going to follow them throughout the season.
Yeah.
And Major League Baseball may just want to wipe it away, but I don't think it's going to go away. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I just remembered this is also the Ohtani who signed that. What was it, like a $700 million contract?
But it's the weirdest contract of all time.
But there's this weird contract, like, because it's delayed and somehow the Japanese government is involved, right?
I think it's the Japanese government. Also, California takes out a huge chunk of taxes.
Yeah.
So when the bulk of that money is due, what is it, like 11 years from now or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
He won't be in California any longer. So, the state of California won't get, what is it, 11% or whatever they take, right? So the other side of this is that he's made a shit ton of money already with the Angels. He's got a shit ton in endorsement deals, both in the United States and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dodgers are paying him like $1.5 million a year. And they're using that money to spread around with other players so they can, build a galaxy of stars around Ohtani.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's smart. But on the other hand, it was one of those contracts that, again, like, raise people's eyebrows. So the Dodgers are getting some smoke in a way that they probably don't want. And I've got some things to say about the Dodgers. What's your take on the contract and what's going on in general? Like, what's going on here with this guy?
I think that the overall investment in this man is so vast that they're not going to let this $4.5 million debt by this translator ruin that. They're going to fucking, they'll disappear this guy if they have to, but that guy's going away forever. He's not going to translate a word for Ohtani again. And if anything, they might take some of that investment if they need to. And like, maybe the translator will do like a mini press run. He'll come out.
Oh, he's gone. Translator's gone.
Okay. He's gone.
He's gone. So the translator's problem is going back to Japan and losing face. That's a big fucking deal.
Well, they have a high suicide rate, as I recall, right? And
you don't lose face like that in Japan.
Right. They have a high suicide rate as well as an honor-based sort of culture. And they don't handle shame very well, it seems. And that's what he's going to be dealing with quite a bit.
Harry Carey. And we're not talking the Cubs announcer. All right, check this out. This is a little deeper into the piece. The bookmaker named by LA Times as Matthew Bauer of Orange County reportedly surfaced in a federal investigation along with Ohtani's name. The Times reportedly investigated the matter, and that caused Ohtani's lawyers to look into the situation and discover the alleged, and the word here is alleged, theft by Mizuhara. Bauer's home was raided by federal agents last year, the Times reported. The same prosecutors have been investigating a large gambling operation in the area, one that has even roped in former Dodgers player Yasiel Puig, though it's unclear if the two are formally related. So we've got some underworld activity here. In the course of responding to recent media inquiries, we discovered that Shohei has been the victim of a massive theft. Like, how is that possible? Give me an idea as to how Izuhara commits a massive theft here.
He's the bookie, right?
No, Mizuhara is his buddy.
Okay. So Mizuhara is the translator buddy, right?
And they're saying it like $4 million.
Yeah.
A lot of theft.
That is a lot of theft, but wow. Okay. So what you're saying is that amount of theft is improbable, and it's more and more likely that the Dodger himself is directly involved.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
So if that is the case, what then? They sweep it under the rug, or this is just a huge black eye for everybody? Or does this guy potentially, as a player, get suspended or potentially, you know what's fucked up? You know what could be crazy too? What if they decided this guy sucks and they like, this is a sabotage to get out of that $700 million contract? Highly unlikely. But what do you think is going to happen here? Because you're laying out a pretty solid case. $4 million is a lot of theft. I think it's doable. It could be a watch. It could be a couple watches, or 4 million is too much. If 4 million is too much and it's that in your face that Ohtani was involved, what then?
I don't think that they would try to frame him to get out of the contract.
Okay.
I don't think that they would do that. I think that this completely caught them literally from right field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Dodgers just did not know what hit them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find, I just saw a picture of this guy Bauer, who's the attorney / bookie.
Wow.
So Mizuhara, this is interesting. Here, let's do this. So it says Mizuhara was born in Japan and moved to Los Angeles area in 1991. So his father could work as a chef. He attended Diamond Bar High School in eastern Los Angeles County and graduated from UC Riverside in 2007. After college, Mizuhara was hired by the Boston Red Sox as an interpreter for Japanese pitcher Hideki Okajima. In 2013, he returned to Japan to translate for English-speaking players on the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. That's where he first met Ohtani, who joined the team that same year. After Ohtani signed with the Angels in 2017, the team hired exactly what I said. The team hired Mizuhara to work as his personal interpreter. ESPN said Mizuhara told the outlet this week he'd been paid between $300,000 and $500,000 annually. That's exactly where I thought he was in the range of his gig. ESPN said it spoke to Mizuhara on Tuesday night. So he's not from Japan. He was, but he lives in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to have to go back to Japan and face the gauntlet, right? So he stays in the United States. He goes back to, his place in Diamond Bar, wherever he's living. ESPN said it spoke to Mizuhara on Tuesday night, at which point the interpreter said Ohtani had paid his gambling debts at Mizuhara's request. After the statement from Ohtani's attorneys saying the player was a victim of theft. Well, how is he a victim of theft? How is he a victim of theft? If he's paying for his buddy's debt, that's his buddy didn't steal the money. He's paying for the debt. That is not, would you consider that theft?
I mean, it sounds like a cover story. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not theft. Like, if he's paying him willingly, it's not theft.
Right. I think they're just calling it theft because they're trying to protect Ohtani's reputation as much as they can.
This is such a funny sentence. I'm terrible at gambling. Never going to do it again. Never won any money, Mizuhara said. I mean, I dug myself in a hole, and it kept on getting bigger. It meant I had to let bigger get out of it, and bigger to get out of it, and just kept on losing. It's like a snowball effect. No shit.
He also sounds like somebody who lies habitually. Like 90% of the time, it's a lie. If he's not, translating.
I've never won anything. That's bullshit. Because in order for you to get hooked, you have to win at least once.
Exactly.
You have to have the dopamine hit. For sure. What do you want? Okay, so we're going to look at Ohtani's chart. I have this theory, though, about the Dodgers. And let me go back to last year. I think the Dodgers are cursed. First of all, they're owned by the Guggenheim family. And I don't know if you've ever looked in to the Guggenheim Museum in LA and the things that are connected to that. Have you ever looked into that at all?
I have not. Sounds dark.
It's supposedly there's tunnels under there
Tunnel
and
people.
tunnels trafficking kids,
Jesus.
right? Like there are people that have done. Just go to YouTube and type in Guggenheim Museum LA, and one of the people that shows up in relationship to it, because he's got a place that is supposedly connected to it, is Jared Leto. And Jared Leto is a very unusual dude. So you have the Guggenheims who basically run the Dodgers. And so they've got their own like strange tale to tell, right? But last year, one of the things that happened was that the Dodgers had a special night set aside for the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are a group out of San Francisco. And they're all dudes, and they cross-dress like nuns, right? That's their thing. And they supposedly, help the community. They're community helpers, which is why the Dodgers wanted to honor them on Pride Night. Now, what happened is that the LA Dodger fan base pushed back on this. Like they were not into it because they mock Jesus, right? That's one of the things that they do. So they're completely and utterly sacrilegious, right? So the fan base pushed back, and then the Christian community pushed back, the Catholic community pushed back. So you have fans who are not into it, Christians not into it, Catholics, and Catholic community in LA is very heavily Latino. And the Dodgers decided they were going to postpone the event. Now, keep in mind that one of the co-owners of the Dodgers is Billie Jean King, who is lesbian and has been a champion for lesbian, gay, and trans rights. And then another one of the owners of the Dodgers is Magic Johnson, whose kid is trans.
No way, he's trans now?
Well, he's about as close to trans as you can get.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. I didn't know he transitioned. Yes.
So you have LA. Magic Johnson has been given everything.
Mm-hmm.
Post NBA career, they gave him Starbucks franchises, and nobody gets a Starbucks franchise. Magic Johnson theaters in LA, piece of the Dodgers. There's a football team I think he's angling to get a piece of as well. I forget which one. So you have these vested interests inside of the Dodgers management. And then you have whatever minimal voices in the community who theoretically speak loud enough, right, to push this thing across. And I think as a result of this, I think the Dodgers are cursed. That's my sense. Mm-hmm. And this Ohtani thing is part of a much bigger thing with the Dodgers, right? And they may have all these resources at their disposal, and they may have a team that's filled with nothing but superstars. But I think they crossed a line with this event. And I do believe that there is metaphysical payback. And when you mock somebody's religion like that, and not just any religion, right, but Christianity, Christ on the cross, when you go into that zone in that territory, you are like flirting. You're poking, right? You're poking the chest of God when you do that.
Definitely.
Just saying, I would never do it.
Right.
You don't tug on Superman's cape, right? You don't spit in the wind. You don't pull the hat of the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess with God in that way. So the Dodgers, the bill to pay, and they're paying the bill now. And I think it's just getting started.
I guess you could say they're a dodgy organization.
I think you could say that, and I think that that's a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah. I mean, somebody has to be getting sick enjoyment out of, mocking Christianity in that way, right? Somebody out there is pushing the button. Somebody out there is sending emails and organizing in order to pull off events like that. And I do agree with you that there is a huge metaphysical backlash, a huge energetic backlash that, we're just seeing the public face of, but I'm sure behind closed doors, people are suffering and they have no idea how to get out of it because they're so spiritually bankrupt despite having plush amounts of cash, right?
Yes, I would agree with that. And it was really interesting. In fact, the whole thing with Ohtani broke like Major League Baseball. So maybe they knew. I don't know how they figured this thing out.
Yeah.
But Major League Baseball opened its season with the Dodgers playing a game in South Korea. That's when the news came out. Like Ohtani wasn't even in the country when it came out.
Yeah.
And which is just kind of weird for Major League Baseball in general.
Well, my general gauge is that Ohtani is going to be protected because he is sort of a flag bearer of the expansion of the game. You know what I mean? He's kind of like, I see this dude as like Ichiro times 10. You know what I mean? So it's like he's a protected entity. And if people have to get burned along the way, they're going to get burned. But I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to have probably a great season, but I do think he might have to become a lot mentally tougher because if these Boston fans, if these Philadelphia fans smell weakness, like sharks smelling blood in the water, they will pounce on it and they will give it everything they got.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. When he goes to Philadelphia,
yeah,
and they play those games against the Phillies,
yeah,
it will be merciless.
Yeah, they will be.
And I don't know. Again, I don't know if they play the Red Sox this year in interleague, but you know how Red Sox fans are.
I know how they used to be. I don't know anymore. Okay, good. So
I can tell why this guy connects with America. I can see why these sports reporters, because I see grown men just drool over Ohtani in the sports world. And if you look at his birthday, he's born on July 5th. So his birth son, is in conjunction with the U.S. sun, right? July 4th.
Right.
And we think of baseball as being a summer game. And so there he is, conjunct the son of the United States. So it's interesting. He's like foreign-born son in some ways, and very much connected to baseball, which is a very traditional sport. Like it's passed down father to son, playing catch and all that shit, right? So he's a Cancer and one day off in the United States chart. We don't know what his rising sign is, but let's go through some of these aspects. So he has Mars in Gemini.
Same with me.
And Moon in Taurus. You've got Mars in Gemini, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So restless, right? There's a restless nature with Mars in Gemini. And it's interesting because it's tied to this moon at this anaretic degree of Taurus, the final degree of Taurus. I would say that Mr. Ohtani is materialistic. He's got some issues to deal with. The 29th degree of a sign means that there's no more energy, right? But he's got this, kind of I would call it a compulsive Mars. And then right on the other side of this, he's got Pluto in Scorpio in opposition to the moon, right? So this is other people's money. Dude, he's a gambler.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, Ohtani's a
Okay.
gambler.
Yeah.
With this chart, he's a fucking gambler.
Oh my God.
He's got the
That's
true
obvious.
node in Scorpio, conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, and he's got Mars down here, which is the action,
Dude.
right? Over here, he's got Venus squaring everything. Venus and Leo, doesn't matter where it is. It's all about sports, partnerships.
What if the translator is covering for Ohtani?
Oh, I think he's totally covering for Ohtani.
What if he is like the samurai taking a sword for his fellow samurai?
He is. He's seppuku.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. Seppuku. And he's got Mercury retrograde in Cancer. Oh, that'll be interesting to watch. Especially when it's Mercury retrograde Gemini. That'll be interesting to watch as the season goes on.
Well, tell me about that. Tell me about
well,
that.
he makes a statement. Like he's making a statement, a definitive statement.
Yeah.
And it's Mercury retrograde Gemini. So when we get into Gemini season,
yeah,
right, when the sun goes into Gemini, it's going to cross his Mars. It's going to cross that Mercury. It's going to light that Mercury up. Right? It may reveal things that Mr. Ohtani might have said that may not be as truthful as we were led to believe. Right. And so a lot of times when you get Mercury retrograde, you clearly have to learn from your mistakes. But it's also interesting too, because he's one of these guys that plays both ways, right? He's a pitcher, and he plays in the outfield. So that's very Gemini-like. I mean, from a baseball perspective, I think you can make an interesting connection there. But this Mercury retrograde, and we've got Neptune transiting through Pisces, squaring Mercury. I think Mr. Ohtani is not telling the truth. He's not telling the truth. He's got talent though, dude. There's his Cancer sun at 12 degrees, trine Saturn retrograde, and trine Jupiter, right? So anytime you have an interesting conjunction with Sun and Jupiter, like it can be very expansive. It can add confidence. So if you're an athlete, it's a nice trine to have. Like you can believe in your abilities and believe in yourself. And with a Saturn trine, clearly there's the ability to put some hard work in, be disciplined, structured. You got a nice Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter trine there. So I think he's wired in his chart as an individual for success. And then he also has kind of a wide trine with the true node. What's going on with Neptune? Because Neptune is where we get into issues. He has a wide opposition with Neptune. And again, retrograde. So there's a lot of retrograde in his chart. Saturn retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and Mercury retrograde. So about half of his planets are retrograde. So when we go through a retrograde season, it'll be interesting also to see how that is, kind of comes out in the wash in his chart. It's a wide opposition with Neptune. Best case scenario with Neptune Sun opposition, the person is a dreamer. They have a dream. They follow their dream, right? It's like, can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? I have this dream that one day I'll be a big baseball player in America, and maybe that's true. Maybe he did. So that would be a reasonable kind of example of a Neptune Sun opposition. I would say it's unreasonable, but like the lesser, I think, interpretation of this is that Neptune would conceal who he is. Like the world may see him in a particular way, but over here on the other side of the chart, the dude is somebody else, right? With Neptune, a lot of projection goes on. So they see Ohtani. What's interesting about Ohtani too? He looks slightly Western, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Right. He doesn't look like the other guy.
Yeah.
His eyes are
from LA or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, so he's kind of easier on the Western eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Versus like,
Hideo Nomo or somebody like that.
Right. or Hideki Matsui.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Godzilla. That's what
Yeah.
that's what his nickname was. He doesn't look like that. But when you see something like that from a physiognomy perspective,
Yeah.
and then you have Neptune in the opposition, that's when people will project, right? Like, oh, well, he's from Japan and he's, the best player in Major League Baseball and he's the face of Major League Baseball. But, he's kind of a good-looking guy. He doesn't have really slanted eyes. Maybe his mom, you know what I mean? Like Neptune can kind of play into that a little bit. And people can project with Neptune. I think ultimately this guy could be in trouble. And not maybe necessarily with Major League Baseball, but I think more with Japan. That's my sense.
Yeah.
He's got this Venus-Pluto square. That's, by the way, Venus-Pluto is not good for gambling.
Dude.
Not good for
Gotcha.
gambling.
We gotcha. We caught him.
Yeah. So there you go. Mr. Shohei Ohtani's unofficial chart. What does he share? So we have his aspects. We just don't have his time. Let's see. So these are people that share the same Moon-Mars conjunction with an orb of less than 1 degree. So we have Nicolas Sarkozy, who used to run France, total fucking criminal. Kylie Minogue, Chris Pratt, Ricky Martin, Erdogan, the guy who runs Turkey. So you got some gangsters here. Both these guys are gangsters.
They're all dodgy. All of them.
Ringo Starr, Simone de Beauvoir, who else? There's more. Let's see what else we have. Saturn trine with less than 1 degree. Leonardo DiCaprio, Lady Gaga, Macron. So he's got both of these French rulers covered here. Kylie Jenner, Sharon Tate, Chris Brown, Sophie Marceau, Haley Baldwin, Catherine Deneuve. And then here's your people born on the same day. Jean Cocteau, Dolly, the sheep cloned. Who else? Lawrence Ferrari. Of all the aspects, this one's pretty interesting. Moon at 29 degrees. Frida Kahlo, River Phoenix, Brendan Fraser, who did play baseball player, Tucker Carlson, Kim Hyun-jung, and to me, this is the one that's kind of the most interesting. This Moon-Mars conjunction, and the people that would typify that Moon-Mars conjunction, because that's very tight, and they're in different elements, right? Moon in Taurus and Mars in Gemini. So you have this air, driving force of air, and then you have this, kind of, I would call it lackadaisical, but the Moon in Taurus likes luxury. Like it likes the finer things in life. So, I mean, in best case scenario, this is somebody who'd be driven to get those things. With Pluto on the other side, though, to what end would they be driven? That, I think, is the big question.
Wow. Ohtani, this isn't the first time we're going to hear your name in gambling, is it?
Well, I don't think it's going to be the last time we're going to hear anything about this scandal, and it's a scandal.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, here, let's play this out. I want your opinion on this. Okay. Do you know who Aubrey Huff is?
Sounds super familiar. I'll just Google it. Like, I've heard that name for sure. Okay. Aubrey Huff. Okay, the baseball player. Okay, I've seen this dude. Yep. Okay. San Francisco Giants. Okay. Big name.
Right. And he Aubrey Huff is unabashedly like macho, right?
Okay.
What do you think would happen if Aubrey Huff, with his current personality, was tied to a gambling scandal like this.
They would treat him like that Atlanta Braves pitcher. What was his name? Not Greg Maddux.
John
The other-
Rocker,
They would treat him like John Rocker.
worse. But
Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
yes.
So not only that, yeah, they would John Rocker his ass quick.
He made a statement saying he did it without his knowledge. Okay.
Yeah. So
Statements are easy. Statements are easy to make.
right.
Right. What's he going to do? Right. What other recourse does he have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gambled. That was my money. Man, there are a couple games. We fucking won. We partied our ass off. Well, he lost more than he won, so I had to bail him out. Like, he's not going to say that.
Right. Crazy.
He's not going to. This guy is the most important player in Major League Baseball.
And it really does speak to the addiction of gambling because he's not doing it for the dollar amount. He's doing it for the rush.
Even if it's just his friend, let's just say his buddy who looks like he's pretty sleazy says to Ohtani, "Hey, look, man, I need you to put up a line of credit so I can move some money with this guy, and you don't have to do anything, right? I'm just going to invest in this thing, but I need you as a backup, or I need you, as my collateral." And Ohtani would say, "Yeah, fine, I'll be your collateral as long as you use your own money," right? That would be the best case scenario. And if that's true, then Ohtani is culpable, right? He's culpable. Gambling, it may be legal in certain states with sports books like Texas with Mark Cuban and all that shit, but it's not in California. It's not in California. So this is an underworld activity. This isn't even sanctioned by the state. So, so he's $4 million in, right? How do you get a line of credit when you're making between $300,000 to $500,000 a year, and you just keep theoretically losing? It just doesn't add up.
Yeah, it all points in one direction, doesn't it?
Best case scenario, he knew the translator was gambling and he put up the line of credit. That is, if he's culpable, that's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that, they were both doing it. And yeah, his translator fell on the sword. That's what he did.
Nice. So should we move on to the podcast pandemic we're in with professional sports?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay. So we have 2 new podcasts. One I'm actually excited for in a weird way because I think it's funny. Another I think is going to be truly dreadful and potentially the worst content the internet has ever seen. The first is LeBron James and JJ Redick are starting a podcast. And, if I were to describe what I saw on Instagram, it might shock and horrify you because what it was JJ Redick was literally taking notes and LeBron was talking. So the premise of the show is LeBron.
Will somebody have to be able to write and take notes on that show?
Well, dude, here's the thing. The whole premise of the show is LeBron James is actually smart. LeBron, wow. Here's JJ Redick, the Duke graduate. He's taking notes.
Right.
When LeBron is talking. And LeBron James, realistically, he's probably at about a 4th grade level, across mathematics and reading and things of that nature.
Oh, I'm sure he has reading issues, right?
Yeah.
LeBron James strikes me as a guy learning disability.
Yes. And it's LeBron talking. And LeBron, he's not an impressive speaker, right? He talks and he talks and he thinks what he's saying is great. And the worst part about this podcast, and it's going to be awful, like dreadful. And this isn't LeBron's first attempt at a podcast. He actually had some barbershop show on like HBO, where he would have Drake come through and all these different people. And it was garbage. But what's going to happen is JJ Redick is taking all these notes, because JJ is probably going to come out with a book about LeBron after, right? Guys, isn't LeBron great? He's so smart. Here are the statistics. This is why he's actually the greatest. And here I am, JJ Redick. I'm a sports analyst. As a sports analyst, JJ is not bad, but I think he's such a brown noser as a personality. He could anchor a show on CNN if the price was right. That's my take on JJ in this podcast. I think it's going to be brutal.
Yeah, it's kind of, it reminds me of a movie where, you know, the movie centers around some guy who's a king, right? And the king isn't very bright. And you have, you know, the court vizier or the court scribe who hangs on every word and writes it down like, you know, it's, you know, a line from the New Testament or something. And then, you know, behind the scenes are like, can you believe this motherfucker's out this? Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what it reminds me of. And you know, we talked about this the last time we got together, in the positioning of athletes through social media and influence like YouTube channels to put them in positions of political power. And don't think LeBron James isn't that in that discussion.
Big time. There are big plans for LeBron James. Like, he's going nowhere after basketball. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you had your nightly freeze.
I did get my nightly freeze. I was just noticing that. All right. Now, entertain the troops. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. I'm going to give you guys a preview of the next new podcast. Is Lamar Odom and Caitlyn Jenner are starting a sports show. I'm honestly kind of excited. I would rather watch that. Well, I'm not going to watch either, but if I were to choose, I would 1,000% watch Caitlyn Jenner and Lamar Odom instead of JJ Redick and LeBron James. Why? It's kind of funny. I mean, Caitlyn Jenner at this point, it's a dude named Bruce, but I mean, at this point in Bruce's career, a career that does include several gold medals competing in the Olympic Games, at this point in Bruce or Jenner, you know, Bruce or Caitlyn, whatever he's feeling that day, she's feeling that day, right? At this point in his or her career, that's what she should start, a sports podcast. Why not? What do you think about that, Rob? I'm actually kind of excited for Caitlyn Jenner and Lamar Odom. I think it's kind of funny.
There's two of me now. Three. There we go. Yeah. I think it's going to be a fucking train wreck. and I think it could be really entertaining.
Yeah.
As a train wreck, right? As a train wreck. So why don't we watch the Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hold on. Bob.
Who's Bob?
All right. Bob. I want to play the intro or the tease so everybody can see the magic of Caitlyn and Lamar. So give me a sec here. Let me cue this thing up.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm kind of excited.
Did you watch the tease for it?
I did, yeah.
By any chance?
Yeah, I did. And I immediately decided, I'm like, okay, this is way, way better than JJ Redick and LeBron James. Way better.
Right. So it has potential to be so bizarre that it could be must watch YouTube theater.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, all it takes is one big interview. Like, I didn't care about Shannon Sharp at all before that Cat Williams interview. But ever since then, he's kind of been like kind of a star in a way.
All right, here we go. So
you got it or you don't got it, okay? Physical talent. You can improve on it, but if you don't got it, you don't got it. The athletic mind. And, I mean, all the greats like yourself, just great competitive ability. Yeah, it's not just the competition, you know, and beating it. it's doing everything when nobody's watching.
I heard nuts things he said. Because, like his world insane.
Can you get me that fight?
Ooh, he's pretty good, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What happened that night when you had the traumatic brain injury?
I woke up from my coma. They were telling me that I probably never walk again.
Dramatic. Boy, when I woke up from my nose job, it was horrible. Oh my God!
I saw you kick some ass.
God gave me fast feet. There was a fight in high school that turned out. Where did Jenner go?
Would you have to give up to make it to where you are right now?
I mean, nobody.
My dick.
No, one performance better than I.
Dude, this has epic written all over it.
That's a hit. It's going to be a hit. Like, there's no getting around the fact that it's going to be a hit.
And I think the more weird
Yeah.
and high strange Caitlyn rolls this thing out, the better it's going to be.
Caitlyn is one of the greatest Olympians ever, right? I mean, she destroyed men in athletic competition, and she's going to be talking about how she did that. And I think this is her lane. And with Lamar's a former crackhead, and this is his lane as well. He has endless stories. He has endless content. And it's not like they don't know each other. They both come from the Kardashian world, right? So
Yeah.
this is, if people want money and fame, you might end up a transgender or a crackhead, because these people are at the pinnacle of it. And now they've got a podcast, and I can't see it failing. I just can't.
It's got to be more entertaining
Yeah.
than fucking LeBron James and JJ Redick.
Dude, they're going to destroy JJ Redick and LeBron James. I mean, these guys, they got it. They got it. They got it. They whatever it is, the X Factor, they have it in such an abundance that they could donate it to charity.
When I was in high school, I used to go to the YMCA in Santa Clara, California.
Okay.
And that's where Bruce Jenner worked out
Mhm.
when he was training for the Montreal Olympics. So I was literally in the same weight room that Bruce Jenner was in. And the dude was a beast,
Yeah.
right? I mean, athletically, just a total stud beast. And he was able to do things that nobody else could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there've been some really, great decathletes, but Jenner was just like next level when it came to all that stuff. He was actually drafted, I think, in the 6th round. I think he was drafted by a football team.
Wow.
And I was going through NBA drafts.
Yeah.
And it was like the 6th round or 7th round of some fucking obscure NBA draft. And I saw the name Caitlyn Jenner. I'm like, somebody drafted Bruce Jenner to play basketball.
I'm looking at it right now. Jenner was also selected by the Kansas City Kings with the 139th overall pick in the 7th round of the 1977 NBA draft.
Right.
Despite not having played basketball since high school.
Right.
Wow.
Jenner's background is very bizarre. So he grew up like just outside of Sandy Hook.
Bizarre.
Bizarre. The other thing that's bizarre about Jenner is that after he gets all this fame and fortune on the heels of the Olympics, I think he buys like either a Corvette or a Ferrari or Maserati, like a fast car.
Yeah.
And he lets his younger brother drive this fast car, and his younger brother crashes it and kills himself.
Jesus.
So he's got this weird kind of like tragedy, kind of baked into him, and it's post success as a triathlete, right? Or decathlete. And then there's the really strange story about how after he transitions, he gets into a wreck on a freeway in LA and kills a woman.
Mm-hmm.
in an accident, which nobody's ever really resolved.
Right.
So he's got this weird thing with automobile accidents and just even like growing up in the shadow of like Sandy Hook. I mean, he wasn't there for long, but he was, when you look up Sandy Hook and was it Newtown or whatever?
Yeah.
You'll see Bruce Jenner's name as a resident of that area. So,
yeah. I mean, I wonder, Dr. Shiva has some theory about him being exposed to some chemical that kind of like spurned his desires to become a woman in a weird way. Like, I don't think, she's officially a woman. I think it's a mentally ill man, but I think there is also some sort of chemical or physiological exposure, could have been from steroids or something like that, that has spawned Caitlyn decades down the road.
that's an interesting point.
That's
a very interesting point. But he was also hanging out in the witches' coven.
Oh, what is
the Kardashians?
They're
witches. The Kardashians are witches, man.
Yeah, I've heard theories about them. Yeah, and it's difficult to deny the fact that they seem to be getting energy from the men that are in their lives, and the men, once they exit their lives, are this hollowed out, changed man. Very much changed. Look at Kanye.
Very much. Yeah.
It's like you go through some shit before and after a relationship with a Kardashian, it seems.
Yeah. So Bruce Jenner's a Scorpio. He's a double Scorpio. Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun. Mars and Virgo. What else? Pluto and Leo. Leo in the midheaven performing. He had a whole performing career too, right? Like he had a TV show. He did, who he played. What was the guy's name? I think his name was James. Was it James Williams? He played. So Grambling, which is an all black school, right?
Yep.
They had a white quarterback one time, and they did like a movie biopic of this guy, and Bruce Jenner played the white quarterback.
That's awesome.
At Grambling.
Yeah.
He played the dude.
That's fun.
When I look at his chart, let me throw his chart up here.
It's just funny, the double Scorpio, because, he's kind of died and rose again as a new creature. You know what I'm saying?
When I saw that, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
He really did transform his identity, right?
Yeah. And sort of the automobile thing, kind of stinging people in a way.
I think that the call on the double Scorpio is a really good one, and transforming his identity. Now, this is interesting. I'm gonna throw this one out here. So he's got his true node in Aries, right? So what do we know about Aries?
Oh my God! So
Aries is a male sign.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God!
He's supposed to be a dude.
This show might be the transition back into malehood. Because let's be honest here, Caitlyn Jenner never got surgery or anything, and she's never going to. She's very much a Bruce still. And if her true node is in Aries, Bruce will rise again. Bruce is going to start lifting.
So here we go. Caitlyn's going through the nodal return, and starting the sports show, right? And what's interesting is that the South Node is over here, conjunct Neptune. Right. Yeah. And it's in Libra, which is ruled by Venus, which is very feminine. Neptune is like fucking fluid, right? This guy is operating out of his South Node.
Dude, oh my God.
He's been a chick before.
Oh my, what's so funny? Like from what we saw in that little trailer, that's a locker room atmosphere. Okay. It's three biological men. At some point, there's going to be an arm wrestling match. At some point, Lamar is going to challenge Miss Caitlyn and be like, Caitlyn, you wasn't really like that. And then Bruce might come out because Bruce might get a little bit angry. Dude, it's almost like, the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. Isn't his name literally Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce Banner.
Yeah, so it's like Bruce is
Yeah.
gonna come out, dude. If you make Bruce angry, Bruce is gonna go Hulk mode. So I think at
Right.
some point,
Yeah.
Lamar
Start
Odom,
flexing, rip the clothing off.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude. And the thing is, Lamar and that other co-host, they're gonna piss him off on purpose. They want the Hulk to come out. The Hulk's gonna come out because the Hulk, like, you know, he hasn't been challenged as a dude probably in a while. And in that atmosphere, talking sports, talking athletics, this is a recipe for Bruce's return, like Batman, as we mentioned earlier in the show.
Yeah. He's, dude, I can tell you right now,
Oh my God.
he's not living his chart. He's way off his chart, man. Way off his
Okay.
chart. He's
This
living
is the
that
correction,
self-doubt.
though.
He's been a woman before. He's reverting back to what he knew in a different prior incarnation. He's supposed to be a dude in this lifetime. True
Oh my
note in
God.
Aries. Hello, right there. Right there. Siblings, he's got that Jupiter in Capricorn in the 3rd house. And what is that doing? 24. Where's Pluto? What's Pluto doing? He's got Pluto in Leo. He's got Venus in Sag. Venus Pluto trine. Yeah, I think the biggest squares in this chart are going to be, he's got that Aquarian moon. Like, he's quirky. You know, he's quirky, unusual. And it squares the sun. Right? That in and of itself is like a conflict between the feminine, which is the moon, and the masculine, which is the sun. So he's kind of at war in some ways here. Clearly, this is a total misstep. Bruce, if you watch this fucking show,
Yeah.
get your ass over here to your true node. You're not supposed to be over here. That's the witch's coven over there. Get out of there, Bruce.
I think this show is the transition to the true node in Aries. That's what I think.
Let's see. He's got a sun trine Uranus at less than a 1 degree orb, and he shares that with Drew Barrymore, Julie Gayet, Muhammad Ali, Chris Martin, Marie Antoinette, Marie Curie, Liv Tyler, Anthony Hopkins, and John D. Rockefeller. Let's see. Horoscopes having the same aspect of the moon square ascendant, which is where his sun is as well. Emma Watson, Zendaya, Napoleon I, Charles Manson, Adam Levine, Matthew McConaughey, Michelle Pfeiffer, Gordon Ramsay, interesting, Michael Fassbender, Alfred Hitchcock. There's some creepy people in that mix. And same day, he's born in the same day as Bill Gates, Joaquin Phoenix,
Yeah.
Frank Ocean. There you go. Who else?
I like that 1 degree Aquarius with Cat Williams. I like that.
Oh, that's the moon, 1 degree Aquarius, right?
Oh, whoops.
So, yeah, Cat Williams, Teal Swan, who interesting person. John D. So he's got some kind of magical people. Francis Bacon, John D. Who else? Clarence Thomas, Mesmer, at that 1 degree. So, Bruce, start living your node, brother. Get off that south node. Get off that, and maybe here's what I think.
Yep.
I think doing this talk show is him trying to get back into that true node in Aries, right? To talk
Totally.
about sports,
100%.
be with a dude like Lamar
Yes.
Odom. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's more of an Aries masculine role being sort of a host versus, Caitlyn Jenner as guest appearance on Fox News.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think all it's going to take, like, how many degrees is she away from a Kanye interview? Get Kanye on the show, one big guest, and that show it's on the map, and then, yeah, I do think this is the real transition, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be funny too. Let's say Shannon Sharp goes on. You never know.
Shannon Sharp, his reputation at this point,
Yeah,
is like he's got all these dudes like Mike Epps and all these other guys coming at him that he's gay.
Do you think he's been to Diddy parties in the past?
Shannon?
Yeah.
That do I think or do I know?
I'm just like, what do you think? I don't know if you know, but do you think?
I I think the probability that's pretty high.
Okay. Yeah.
So for those of you who aren't aware of Diddy parties, right? What Al is talking about are levels of depravity that most everyday people will never see and barely conceive of.
Mm-hmm.
That's I had been, reading about that stuff and watching videos about those parties back in the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't specifically linked to Diddy, but there is this gal who was a insider from the hip hop world, and she was talking about these parties, and they completely match up with what's coming out with Diddy and what goes down in these parties. And it all starts off with like, basic orgy, right? That's where it all starts. Just a basic, or if it's basic, right? And people are high, they do drugs, and a lot of people dig it, right? It's cool, it's fun, it's like, you get your freak on. But then you go back, and every time you go back, it gets more debased. And along the way, what happens, if you're in the hip hop world, you sign these contracts and you sign these deals, and you have to go to the parties,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have to do things at these parties that just get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
Until finally you have such self-loathing, and you may have, all the riches and drink fucking Cristal or whatever, right? But you can't look at yourself in the mirror because you see a demon looking back at you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how bad it gets. And so Diddy's parties were like a gateway. They were like a portal to this well of depravity. And so I guess they just raided his house, right? Like that just happened.
Yep.
I'll ask you a question. I'd like your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Do you think that the FBI told him that they'd be there at on the 25th of March at 4 p.m. to give him a heads up?
I think that ultimately, whether or not he got the heads up, he's getting burnt, and he's going to get burnt in order to protect somebody like Clive Davis, who exists above him in this sort of hierarchy of demons, hierarchy of evil, right? So I think that, I don't know whether or not he got tipped off, because I did see two of his sons that were apprehended by police. So I don't know if he did get tipped off, would he have allowed that to happen, or could it be a decoy? I don't know. Either or, I think that his time as a protected asset is over. And
I'd agree with you.
Yeah.
100%. And if you're him, and they've been talking about him earnestly for what, like the last 2 months?
Big time. The last 2 months. Yeah.
So if you're Diddy, what are you doing? You're burning everything that's incriminating,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've got 2 months to basically get rid of the incriminated material for
Mhm.
you, and then you're storing away the incriminating people for other people so that you have leverage.
Yes. Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
And
What do you think? Do you think anything's going to come out of this?
I think there, potentially a lot could get pinned on him. Anything from the murder of Biggie Smalls to the murder of Tupac. I think that what's going to come from it is something similar to Weinstein. I think that he will go down legally, and it might not be within this year. It might be within the next 5 years. And I think from there, I think he as an individual is donezo. I think there's a lot that's going on with him, and that he's been doing for a while. And I think that he is done. Personally, I think he's gonna be in the can for a while.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah,
Do you think he lives?
that's another interesting question. It depends on how he moves, because they could make this guy look crazy if he starts talking too much. But he's been so in the fold for such a long time, since the 90s, right? Since he was a 24-year-old who became an executive because he cozied up to Clive Davis in New York City.
Right.
So this guy's a vet in this hip hop game.
His dad worked
Yeah.
for Nicky Barnes.
Yep. So
Diddy was born into crime,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
That was his world.
Yep. So
Did you ever watch any of the video stuff on Craig Mack?
It sounds super familiar. R&B singer?
So Craig Mack was the first artist on Bad Boy
Yep.
to pop, and his song was called Flavor in Your Ear. And Craig Mack has this really bizarre journey, and you can tell along the way that Diddy is gaslighting him, right? Like at a certain point, he replaces him with Mace, right? So now it's Diddy and Mace, and Mac kind of gets frozen out, and then Craig Mack winds up joining this really weird Christian cult, and like hardcore, like such a bizarre story. And this is the guy who put Bad Boy on the map, like the first hit.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get a chance, watch one of the YouTube videos about Craig Mack's life.
Okay.
And you can tell that this is a guy that winds up descending deeper and deeper into paranoia and finds this strange Christian cult kind of literally go into like a witness protection program.
Wow.
I mean, he winds up getting really fucked up. And even Mace like leaves Diddy. Does he become like a born again Christian or something for a while?
He did for a while. He's got a podcast now too with Cameron.
Right, with Cameron. But
Yeah.
it's another case of these guys that get too close to the flame.
Yeah.
Right. They see what's going on and they don't want any part of it. Like they want to go 180 in the other direction. And that's pretty early on in Puffy's world.
And Puffy also had a wife that died, a model wife that just died, right?
Right.
Somewhere along his path. But I wanted to bring up a few things that are in our text message exchange, just so we don't forget.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to throw this. This is because Trump did this. Trump pardoned Kodak Black.
Yeah.
And he pardoned the other guy from Death Row, Harry.
Well, there was ASAP Rocky too. And
ASAP. Well, he did that. He got ASAP Rocky out of fucking hot water.
Yep, and Lil Wayne as well.
Lil Wayne he pardoned, right?
Yes.
So WC Ray, Biden will pardon all these turds on the way out. I agree with that. All right, go ahead, Al.
So a few subjects that you brought up. This is a big one, this top one. NFL bans hip drop tackle.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What exactly is a hip drop tackle?
So a hip drop tackle is like a horse collar that's below the waist.
Okay.
And if you are a defensive back who weighs 195 pounds, let's say, and you have to tackle a 6'5", 240-pound tight end who runs a 4.5 40, the hip drop tackle is about the only thing you can do to gain leverage in order to stop somebody much larger than you, right? So now the NFL has taken away yet another tool or tactic that can be used on the defensive side. So they're rapidly heading towards flag football.
Well, that's what JJ Watt just said, because I just Googled this, and JJ Watt likens NFL's hip drop tackle ban to flag football.
Yes.
That's fucking nuts, dude.
Well, I mean, we started talking about this last year.
Yeah.
That's ultimately where they want to go. right?
That's
Because
crazy.
flag football, you can make co-ed. You can even the playing field, and you could have integrated teams of flag football.
Jesus Christ.
And flag football is going to be an Olympic sport in the next Olympics. That's where it's all going. And all they need is a massive gambling scandal. That's it.
So that's nuts. That's going to change the game, man. That's not in a good way too. It's like, and the thing is, NFL rules will eventually go to college, and then yeah.
I hear. So I may disagree with that a little bit.
Okay.
I think that college football will probably retain its rules,
Okay.
and college football will wind up usurping pro football. Because if you go back into the history of football, college football was way more popular than the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Then the NFL came along and eventually, stole the shine from college football. And I think it's probably going to go back that way. So, yeah. And then, guys who play college football are going to be like, do I really want to play flag? No, I'll just stay in college for as long as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge. Anyways, another thing was this LSU coach. I don't know too much about this. LSU coach Kim Mulkey rips Washington Post over unpublished hit piece they launched on her.
Right. So what Al's referring to is the women's basketball coach for the LSU Tigers, Kim Mulkey, and they're currently in the women's version of March Madness. And Kim Mulkey, the profile, Kim Mulkey is white. She is not politically correct, right? Like Kim Mulkey is probably conservative. And there's a guy for the Washington Post who he was assigned to do a story on Kim Mulkey, and she would not consent to being interviewed. Because if you look at his profile as a writer, he's a hitman, right? It's a hit piece. And they're going to go after Kim Mulkey, accusations of racism, all the things that theoretically would go along with somebody like her. And she refused to be interviewed. And all the gals who play for her or have played for her at LSU, they also refused to be interviewed. Right. So they stonewalled this guy. And so he couldn't get any direct sources for the story. And he was going to go over the story with Kim Mulkey last week during the NCAA tournament. Yeah. Like, I'm writing a story about you and I'm going to go over these points and you can answer whatever the points are. You can refute them. You can give me a different version. She said, basically, kiss my ass. Yeah. We're in a college tournament. I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but since you never interviewed me and you didn't interview anybody in my inner circle, I'm actually going to sue the Washington Post so that you do not run that story.
Good.
Right. So, yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
Right. And then all the girls on her team, basically said, we got your back.
Good.
And really what this comes down to is kind of this identity war inside of women's basketball. And Kim Mulkey's biggest competitor is Dawn Staley, who coaches for South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And Dawn Staley is the definition of woke. Huh. Right? Dawn Staley is so woke that when there is this fake outrage of this gal who was a volleyball player at Duke and went to a tournament in, I think it was BYU, and accused somebody in the stands of uttering a racial epithet, which, by the way, was proven to be not the case. But the person, and that person also had Asperger's, right? So proven to be wrong. This gal who played for Duke, spread a false rumor, bore false witness, comes out completely wrong. But somewhere between the accusation and the proof, Dawn Staley says, I'm not taking my team to play at BYU. It's not safe there.
What a
Right.
fucking loser.
So Dawn Staley is making these accusations
Yeah.
that people in Provo, Utah, or whatever, wherever, right, wherever BYU is, are racists.
Mm-hmm.
And it was proven that nothing was ever said.
Mm-hmm.
And the gal's, I think, grandmother, I think the woman's name is Rachel Robinson, I think. And the grandmother is like an activist, and it just got really fucking ugly, right? So you have Dawn Staley, who is the face of that in women's basketball, right? She's the face of that. Kim Mulkey is Dawn Staley's rival, and she's very different than Dawn Staley. Now, remember, Angel Reese plays for LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's another side of the story, is the whole Angel Reese story. And again, Dawn Staley had to deal with Angel Reese while Angel Reese was out. You and I covered this thing. So again, they're trying to drum up these accusations. It always comes down to one word, and it's race. And nobody, and that includes Angel Reese, by the way, nobody's playing ball with this writer. So, and now, Dawn Staley's litigating. It's like, fuck you. Your paper is going to have to hire a lawyer and deal with my lawyer. Right. So good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
The writer from the Washington Post is clearly a punk.
He's a hatchet man, right?
Yeah.
He's hired to write these hit pieces, and they're cultural hit pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It's what he's paid to do.
Mm-hmm.
And under the guise of social justice and whatever other bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Sanders family?
Yeah. This is interesting, man. Because I saw the same thing you did, where Dion is on a podcast and he's basically openly talking about the fact that he anticipates his son Shador to go in the top 4. I don't agree with that. But that's what he thinks. He thinks him and Travis Hunter are going to go in the top 4 in the next year's NFL draft after this coming season. And then he goes on to say that there are some cities where Shador is definitely not going, that if need be, they will pull an Eli Manning type maneuver where Eli Manning was originally drafted by the San Diego Chargers. They said, no, we don't want to go there. He ended up going to New York. So Dion is publicly already advocating for a situation like that, where there's a set number of cities where he doesn't want Shador to go to. And he's publicly stated that he's not going to go to. He didn't say what the cities are to my knowledge.
Oh, no, he had a list of cities that he thought were good cities.
Okay, what were they? Because I didn't really get that.
All right, so one of the things that Dion Sanders said,
yeah,
we don't like cold. Well, why the
Okay.
fuck are you coaching in Colorado?
Exactly.
We don't like cold.
Yeah.
And yet, 2 of the cities that he named playing pretty cold weather.
What were the cities that he doesn't want to go to? Versus
I'll tell you the
where
cities
he
he wants to. I'll tell you the cities he's into.
Yep.
Atlanta's at the top of the list, of course.
Right.
I think Miami's on the list. I think Dallas is on the list. Washington is on the list. Baltimore is on the list. And the 49ers are on the list, San Francisco. Now, 4 of those cities are teams. Every city I've mentioned
Yep.
with the exception of Miami, Dion Sanders has played for.
Right. Okay. And did he publicly say, "Hey, we're not going to Minnesota"? Did he say anything like that?
He said he didn't want to go to play in a cold city.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Even though you'll freeze your ass off in Baltimore and Washington
yeah,
in November, December,
definitely.
which makes no
mean,
sense.
Here's the thing. Shedeur, from what I saw last year, because I watched every Colorado game last year, he's publicly stated that he's not capable of NFL type reads. He says he doesn't like option routes where the receiver has an option and that they have to both simultaneously read the defense. Something like what Brady and Edelman used to do routinely. He's publicly stated he doesn't like doing that. He likes to know where it's going and have one option and go.
He's a one read guy. He's a one read guy.
Right. And I've been paying close attention, not only to the games they played this past season, but also the media they put out. Something really, really, really interesting I saw was Shedeur went down to Miami to take reps with Cam Ward. Now, Cam Ward was at Oregon State. No, he wasn't at Oregon State. He was at Washington State. Okay. Cam Ward transfers from Washington State to the University of Miami. Big transfer pickup. And so him and Shedeur are doing drills. And I'm watching. This kid, Cam Ward, he outperformed Shedeur on every single rep, on every single drill. You know, during this past offseason, Shedeur was recovering from a back injury. Instead of training in Colorado, he's over in France at a fashion show.
Right. He's at Fashion Week in Paris.
Exactly. So I've been closely observing this. And yeah, they'll probably have a little bit better year than last year. He's not that good. He might be a top 10. I could give him top 10 talent, perhaps in college football. Top 10. That's all I'm giving him. I'm not giving him top 5. And I think
I don't think he's the highest ranked. I don't think he's the highest ranked quarterback in the class.
Definitely not. 100% not.
Yeah.
In like the rankings I do see, he's severely overranked. Like some people have him number 2. He's not. He's just not. There's a lot of guys better than him. So, I mean, the kid that just transferred from Kansas to Ohio State, insane. The Georgia quarterback, insanely good. Texas, Quinn Ewers, insanely good. I mean, he's not in the top 5. Like I would definitively say he's not even in the top 5. So I think Dion's delusional. I really do. I think he has delusions of grandeur. He has that, what is it, Jupiter in
He's got a Sun-Jupiter conjunction in Leo.
Right. That can lead to delusion, in my opinion, sometimes.
Well, I mean, you know, his belief in himself is almost godlike, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody that talks about themselves in the third person. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think somehow Shedeur is going to wind up with the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
And Dion Sanders is going to join the coaching staff of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, whether or not he's going to be a defensive guy, offensive guy, I'm not sure. But I could see this for a number of levels. First of all, Jerry Jones would love the fucking publicity. He would love it.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, Jerry Jones has, you know, he's been sort of dodging these dog whistles over the last few years, right? I think it was 2 years ago where the photo came out where he was at the University of Arkansas and there was like a hassle with the color line when he was in college. And he was there in the background of the photo, kind of watching this beef between whites and blacks who wanted to attend the school. And automatically, just because he was in the photo, they're claiming he's a racist, right? So he had to deal with that. And now he's got this paternity test that he has to do for this woman who's been suing him for basically money that she thinks she's owed because she's his illegitimate daughter. right? So Jerry Jones has been going through these weird, like, dog whistles. Like they would love to pry the Dallas Cowboys away from Jerry Jones and the Jones family. It's never going to happen. It is never going to happen. You could take Jerry Jones away and you've got Stephen Jones, and then you've got Jerry Jr., and then you've got Stephen Jr., who's Stephen's son, who's coming up. It's a family fucking business, right? Just because you remove Jerry Jones, you can't take it out of the hands of the family. And they run a tight ship. And aside from the fact that he may have had some controversy in his past, you're not going to get the team from. That said, I think Jerry Jones wants to win a Super Bowl before he passes away because he's not a kid. And I also think that he wants his legacy to be beloved, right? And I think by having Shador and bringing Dion back into the fold would accomplish that. Now, I don't think Dion Sanders should be the head coach of the Cowboys.
No.
But I could see Shador winding up with the Cowboys and Dion playing some role within the team.
Yeah. Well, he's going to push for, he wants Shador or Travis Hunter to win a Heisman Trophy this year. I don't think that's going to happen. But I just got to say that it's just irresponsible and just straight up dumb to have Travis Hunter play both ways again for the whole year. And it looks like they're aiming to do that from what I can see on their vlogs.
Puts his long-term, he's not big, puts his long-term career at risk.
Exactly.
It's irresponsible, but he's representing Travis Hunter. And that's kind of weird too, right? Like he's no, he's going to go where we want him to go.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, good luck with that, Dion.
Right.
It's a long season. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And playing both ways at that level is a recipe to get hurt. Like we saw it happen this past.
Totally. Yeah. By the time the season was over last year, those guys were beaten up. I mean, you've got these teams that clearly want a piece of the Colorado Buffaloes.
Mm-hmm.
They're running around with their Rolexes and, their Bentleys or whatever they've got. They want a piece of that. They want that smoke with that team, and they're going to make them pay. We saw that last year. Colorado State, even though they lost and knocked the shit out of them in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to get more of it. And I don't care how many, 5-star recruits they got. They're still going to get the treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I got a podcast. It's just one episode.
Yeah.
But I want to recommend this one podcast in this episode. We haven't talked about it. But Udonis Haslam and Mike Miller have a podcast.
Okay.
Called The OGs. They have a nearly 3-hour interview with Jason White Chocolate.
Oh, I love that guy. Yep.
Jason Williams, right? Never at any point that I think, man, this interview is really long. It's so entertaining. And Jason Williams can tell an amazing story. This guy, he's from West Virginia, played high school with Randy Moss, played high school football with Randy Moss. And he was the quarterback on the football team with Randy Moss playing. And Randy played on the basketball team with Jason. And Jason is the epitome of a free spirit, right? Like this guy is really interesting. And I looked at his chart. He's a Scorpio and he was born on an eclipsed Taurus moon.
Huh.
And Jason Williams is a really interesting chart. But the interview is really, really good. You will not be bored. And you could tell Udonis Haslam and Mike Miller love this guy. And they both wound up going to Florida because of Jason Williams.
Wow.
And then it led me to this other video. Do you know who the professor is?
Of course I know who the professor is.
Okay. So I got a little professor story.
Okay.
I used to know these guys in California I used to work with them in the digital music business, and they're both sports heads. And one of the guys started to do these basketball training videos and DVDs, right? And so I'm watching And One, and I'm watching the development of the professor in real time on And One, and I'm like, this guy's amazing. I love this kid, right? For those of you who don't know who the professor is, or And One was this street ball thing that would go from town to town, and they had I guess that was on ESPN, right? It was on ESPN, and it's like they have an MC, and all these guys have names, and they would play local players, and that if there were some decent players that they would play against, they'd get on the bus and they travel with them and try to unseat some of the players that were already on the team. And I think they picked up the professor in New York at a game in New York. And so he joined the bus, and he's this little white dude, but he has just these incredible handles and everything. So I went to my friend. I said, look, if you're going to do a DVD on ball handling, you got to get this guy, the professor, because he's going to help you sell some DVDs. So that set that in motion, and they wound up doing a deal with Grayson. So I got to know Grayson a little bit during that time. He's the nicest guy, and just super chill, super cool. And so they did this DVD. They shot it at the EA studio down in Redwood City. And now he's got this show, and he brings NBA guys onto his show on YouTube, and he shows the moves and stuff. And he brought Jason Williams on the show, and Jason Williams loved being there, right? He was just like, man, I love it. And Grayson showed him this move. Of course, Jason Williams was able to do it. And he's like, you think you could use that in a game? Hell yeah, I could use that in a game, right? Like, it was a really, really cool moment between this young street ball guy and Jason Williams, and collaborating in a really cool setting. And apparently, I don't follow Grayson. I just found out about it. But he's had James Harden on there, and he's had Dame Lillard on there. And neither Harden nor Lillard were all that excited to be there. Right. But Jason Williams loved it.
Yeah.
And you could just tell a lot about Jason Williams because he was just down with the whole thing. Anyway, it's a really good interview. Check out the OGs with Matt Miller or Mike Miller, Udonis Haslem, and Jason Williams. You will not be disappointed.
That sounds cool. Yeah, I'm a fan of both. Big time Jason Williams and the professor. It's interesting. Jason Williams, now that we're in this era of the short clip, he's had this resurgence, as well as the long form podcast with something like you just mentioned. He's had like a resurgence in popularity. And like with the professor, I watched him early. I was playing on these, blacktop basketball courts when And One was huge. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember playing with these dudes who were like, they were training pretty hard because they were getting ready to try out for And One, and I thought that was pretty admirable. But yeah, the professor, he's somebody who just crushes it on the internet. He's got millions of followers. He just translates so well his brand of basketball to the internet. And yeah, I've been following him for a while. I've always been a big fan of the professor.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Grayson in a long time. We used to follow each other on Facebook and send each other messages. Yeah. But I'm just really happy that, he's been able to find his niche and be really successful because he's such a good dude. There's no malice in him whatsoever. And he doesn't have an NBA body, right? So he's never going to make it, but he's found his niche, and I'm thrilled for the kid. So
pretty cool.
All right, Al, you got anything else before we sign off?
That's it, man. Pretty, interesting episode. It's like, it's been an episode where things we've talked about in past shows are starting to come to fruition in a major way, between the gambling, where the NFL is going. And it's just like, It happens fast, man.
You're getting it here first, though. We're talking about this stuff. Oh, should we show them like what happened the last time we did a show? Like
What
some
was that?
people aren't aware of it.
Oh yeah, dude. This is Jason Whitlock just straight up copied your cover design. There's no pussyfooting around this. He copied it. The whole thing.
He totally copied it.
Yeah. So should
So
we pull it up?
the last show that we did,
Yeah.
we had. I'm not even sure I still have the graphic. Let me see if I can. Let me go in here. Hold on a second. I don't like to take credit for stuff, but we got to take credit for this one, Al.
Big time, dude. This is blatant.
Right. Totally blatant. And of course, Jason never responded to me.
Yeah.
Which that's fine. So this is okay. I don't think I can blow it up. But this is the and it wasn't just the cover, it was the show and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the thumbnail that we used. And what did we call it? We called it Politijock.
Yep. The one on the lower right.
We had Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, and Shannon and Charles Barkley and The Rock and Steph Curry. And then Jason Whitlock came back like it was like what, a day later?
Within
or
24
2 days
hours.
later, right?
Yeah.
And this is what Jason Whitlock came up with. Get into his channel.
It's like they took your yellow background and they made it like a blue background. And that was, like,
Right.
the
So
only change.
this is what Jason came up with. Right here. Sport of politics. And we had Politijocks. And basically we've got 3 out of the 4 that he put on the thumbnail. Right. The Rock, Aaron Rodgers, Steph Curry. I almost put Stephen A. Smith in there,
Mm-hmm.
but I put Charles Barkley in there instead. What do you think? Is that a coincidence, or do you think somebody is watching this show?
I think the latter is likely, because they're too similar. It's same show theme, same design. So I think it's like, oh, that's a good idea, and then just take it and just kind of repackage it, remix it a little bit, and then
Right.
and then just launch. So,
Yeah. Anyway, all right, Al. Thanks again, brother.
see you guys soon. Later.
Great show. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. Take care. See you, everybody. Stay serious.